I oversee food manufacturing, shellfish, and training program. And I have been with ODA for almost 14 years. Angelina?
Hello, I'm Angelina Peabody with the Oregon Department of Agriculture. I'm up in the Portland area. I'm one of the local inspectors up here. I do retail grocery store, processing, shellfish, meat facilities, and a lot of cottage food and farm direct in my area. I've been with the department 12 years, I think.
Hey. So Cindy, how much time do we have for the cottage food?
You have as much time as you need.
Okay,
I
we
ended up
don't have.
moving my other speaker, so you could
Okay.
have the whole 90 minutes if you want,
Okay.
but you don't
We
have
did-
to.
Okay. Hopefully we don't need to use that much time. Okay, let me share my screen. So hold on. This one. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let me go to the top and close the. Okay. Oh no, this is not. Hold on. Okay. First, thank you, Sydney, for providing me this opportunity to let me talk about cottage food exemption. So first, I would like to give a brief introduction for our department and our food safety program. So ODA's mission is to ensure healthy natural resources, environment, and economy for Oregonians now and in the future through inspections, certification, regulation, and promotion of agriculture and food. So currently we have 5 divisions under ODA. In addition to food safety and animal health division, we also have natural resources, plant protection and conservation, agriculture services, and administrative services. And the mission for our food safety program is to prevent the spread of foodborne illness. To accomplish this mission, we monitor Oregon's food industry. We license and inspect food establishments in Oregon, enforce state sanitation laws, and respond to foodborne illness. So our work is to ensure that the consumers get safe and wholesome food products that are not contaminated, mislabeled, or misrepresented. So the licenses we issue include retail, bakery, meat license, eggs, processing, warehousing, and also domestic kitchen food processing and bakery license. If pet food does not include meat ingredients, we also have pet food processing license. We also issue dairy, shellfish, and classified food licenses. For classified food, it includes the cannabis, kratom, and psilocybin products. And currently, we have more than 13,500 licenses. So in general, food establishment in Oregon requires a license with ODA. However, several exemptions exist to exempt certain food products from licensing and inspecting. That includes farm direct marketing, cottage foods, benevolent and nonprofit organizations, pet food without meat, some very small retail inventory if they carry non-perishable food with an inventory below $2,000 at any given time. And some farm stands exempt, and we also have dairy exemptions and honey exemptions. So today we are going to talk about cottage food exemption. But before the talk for the cottage food exemption, I would like to have a quick review of farm direct marketing exemption to differentiate the difference between the two exemptions. The farm direct marketing exemption exempt some agricultural products that farmers grow, include fresh and dry or cured fruits, olive oil, shelled and unshelled nuts, shell eggs, honey with no additives, uncooked whole, hulled, crushed or ground grain, legumes and seeds, uncooked, parched or roasted grains, popcorn, nuts, peppers, and corn on the cob that are roasted by the farmers at the place of purchase after purchase and not sold for immediate consumption. And also maple tree and walnut tree syrup are exempt from the licensure. And also some processed products are exempt under the farm direct marketing. The products include fruit-based syrups, fruit in syrup, preserves, jams or jellies, processed fruits or processed vegetables, or fruit or vegetable juices. The requirement is that the processor must grow all of the principal ingredients used in the production of these processed products. And these products must be acidic foods. They have to either have a natural occurring pH of 4.6 or below, or they have been lacto-fermented to decrease the pH to 4.6 or below, or they have a water activity greater than 0.85 and have been acidified to decrease the pH of the food to 4.6 or below. And for farm direct marketing exemption, all sales must be directly to the end user. So for farm direct products, they are only for retail sale. No wholesale is allowed. But farm direct marketing allows consignment sales. And every step necessary to prepare the farm direct products must be conducted in a facility located where the farm direct products were grown. So you cannot process a farm direct product in a shared kitchen of the farm. And for farm direct, you may work with the third-party services that assist in the aggregation, delivery, marketing, or other facilitation of the sales. But the third-party service cannot be the farm direct marketers themselves, nor can they consign, store, warehouse, or purchase for sale said products. So these are the requirements for farm direct exemption. Now let's move on to the cottage food exemption. So cottage food was expanded from the previous home baking and confectionery exemption. The Senate Bill 643 passed in the 2023 legislative session and became effective in January 2024. The significant changes brought by the cottage food exemption include that the scope of product being exempt expanded from bakery goods and confectionery goods to many other items, and we will talk about the details later. And the gross annual sale limit was increased from $20,000 to $50,000. And cottage food exemption also allows the product to be sold on the internet. And it also allows the cottage food product to be wholesale to a retailer if they meet the requirements. And we will talk about that later also. And also cottage food allow the pets in the residential dwelling, but the pet cannot be in the kitchen when the cottage food production is ongoing. And for the labeling requirement, cottage food product has the option to use the unique identification number to replace the business address. And if pets are present in the residential dwelling, the pet must be declared on the label as well. Now let's look at the requirements for cottage food exemption. So first, a cottage food establishment must operate from a domestic kitchen, which means the cottage food must be processed in the kitchen where the residential food is also prepared. And the cottage food cannot be time temperature controlled for safety product. So cottage food cannot be a potentially hazardous food. And cottage food cannot contain marijuana or marijuana items. For the food qualified for cottage food, it includes the baked goods and confectionery items as the previous home baking and confectionery exemption. And for the confectionery items, it also includes freeze-dried confectionery items. So please note that the freeze-drying process is only allowed for confectionery items, not for other food products. In addition, cottage food also include coffee beans. It can be whole coffee beans or ground coffee beans, but not coffee drinks. It also includes dried tea, spice, or seasoning blends from commercial food. Commercial food means a food is processed by a licensed facility. Also include popcorn, jams and jellies made with fruit with a natural pH that is less than 4.60, honey or honey products using commercial food, syrups, fruit butters made with fruit with a natural pH that is less than 4.60, nut mixes, repackaged freeze-dried foods from commercial food, repackaged dried and dehydrated foods from commercial food, or powdered drink mixes from commercial food. So you cannot accept confectionery goods. You cannot freeze dry product under cottage food exemption, but you can purchase commercially freeze-dried product and repackage them at home. So that is allowed. Now I would like to talk about what is time temperature controlled for safety product. So that means the food requiring temperature control due to the capacity to support the rapid and progressive growth of infectious microorganisms or the growth of toxic microorganisms. The time temperature controlled for safety product include, but not limited to, food containing fresh, frozen, or dried meat, including jerky, food made with fish or shellfish products, food requires any type of refrigeration after production for safety, focaccia-style bread with vegetables or cheese, and candied fresh fruit products, such as caramel and candy apples or chocolate dipped strawberries, and any foods that have been heat treated to destroy vegetative cells and subsequently packaged with a pH greater than 4.6 or with a water activity greater than 0.850. So these type of products are not covered by the cottage food exemption. Now let's look at the labeling requirement for cottage food. So first, the label's principal display panel must contain the statement that this product is homemade, is not prepared in an inspected food establishment, and must be stored and displayed separately if merchandised by a retailer. So this statement must be on the principal display panel. And in addition, the label must include the name of the product, the ingredients and sub-ingredients of the food in descending order by weight or volume. And if the product contains any major allergens, such as wheat, soy, egg, milk, the allergen warning must be declared on the label. And the label also need to include the business name and the address of the food business. So for the address, there are three options available. The first option is to list the full street address, city, state, and zip code. The second option is to list the city, state, and zip code if the name and address of the food establishment are listed in a city directory. And the third option is they can use the unique identification number provided by ODA to replace the business address. And in addition, the phone number of the cottage food establishment must be listed on the label, and the net weight or net volume of the product in both English and metric units must be listed. If the label provides any nutrition or health claims, then they must include the nutrition fact label. And if there are pets in the residential dwelling, the label must include a statement that the pets were present in the residential dwelling and also include the species of the pets using the common name, such as dog, cats, or rabbits, or bird. And for the unique identification number, a cottage food establishment can request that from the Department of Agriculture. And this is in the purple color. This is an example of unique identification number. It starts with AG and ended with UIN, and the unique identification number must be renewed by fiscal year. So there may be some scenarios when the cottage food is not packaged. For example, at a farmer's market, the cottage food operators may sell the product to the end user as single items like bread or cookie. So in this case, if they are not packaged, there must be a placard at the location that states the product is homemade and is not prepared in an inspected food establishment. And upon the customer's request, the vendor must provide all required labeling information, as I mentioned earlier. So where can you sell cottage food? So first, cottage food can be sold directly to the end users in any manner. It can be sold from home, online, through the mails, and also at some events. And cottage food can also be sold to a retailer only if the product is packaged and labeled. And also the retailer must agree to store and display the cottage food separately from other commercial foods and use the signage to clearly indicate in the display area the cottage food are homemade and are not prepared in an inspected food establishment. The signage is in addition to the cottage food label statement. And also, the cottage food establishment must maintain a record of this agreement with the retailer. Cottage food cannot be sold to an institution, include but not limited to a restaurant licensed by a county health department, caterer, school, daycare center, hospital, nursing home, or correctional facility. And cottage food cannot be used as an ingredient to make commercial food product. So cottage food must be directly consumed by the end users. The record requirements. So the cottage food operators, they must maintain sales records, including the location of where the product was sold, the date it was sold or shipped, the food product, the price of the products, and the quantity. The sales records shall show that the calculation of the gross annual sale, ensuring that accumulative annual sales are under $50,000, and all copies of the records must be retained for a period of 3 years. So let's look at what Food Hub can do for a cottage food. So Food Hub, as a Food Hub, you can purchase and resell cottage food products. In this case, you must have an ODA license, such as a retail food establishment license if everything is sold directly to the end user, or you can carry a food warehouse license if you do wholesale. And also you need to comply with all the cottage food requirements. The second option is Food Hub can host events to let cottage food operators directly sell their product to the end users. So in this case, the cottage food operators must be on site for the sale. And you can also serve as drop sites for cottage food orders. So after the orders are placed, the cottage food operators can set a date for the customer to pick up the product at the job site. When the orders are delivered to the job site, the product must be identified for each specific order, including the customer's name, quantity, and etc. However, cottage food cannot be stored at the job site overnight. And also, Food Hub can provide delivery service to deliver the cottage food orders to the customers. If you host event, serve as job site, or provide delivery service, then you do not need a license with ODA. So all these informations are available on our ODA website. We have a web page entitled of "What Can I Do Without a License?" So you will find all the cottage food exemption, farm direct exemption information, and this is the link to that web page. And if you would like to contact our local ODA inspector, for example, any cottage food, if their product does not qualify for cottage food and they would like to pursue a food safety license, you can connect them with the local food safety inspector. And this web page will allow you to search for the local food safety inspector. You can use the drop-down menu to find the city, or you can enter the zip code, and this will direct you to the local food safety inspector to assist you in assist any customer in the license application. And that's all I have. Now I'm open for questions.
Jinwen, I put the link to What Can I Do Without a License in the chat.
Okay, great.
And I'll put the link for Find a Food Safety Specialist in the chat as well.
Oh, I think I skipped one slide. Did I miss this slide? I think I missed the one slide here.
I think you did, yes.
Yeah, I skipped this slide. I was wondering when I didn't. Okay, so I just want to add that although cottage food are exempt from the licensure and inspection, ODA remain our authority to inspect and require a license for a food establishment if there are any food safety concerns associated with an exempt homepage. So if, for example, if we received a consumer complaint questioning a product's exempt status, we may require a cottage food product to be assessed or tested to ensure that it is not a time temperature controlled for safety food. So if we order an assessment, the operator must ensure the assessment is done by a recognized process authority and then be supported with a written document by the process authority. Or the operator can test the product at a certified food testing laboratory and have the test result to show that the product has a pH level of 4.6 or less, or the water activity is 0.85 or less. So ODA may request that if we receive any food safety concerns or consumer complaint. And then the records is also required to be maintained and retained by the operator. Yeah, thank you for that. Any questions?
Could you talk a little bit about, we have several online marketplaces on here. So if they wanted to sell cottage foods that they haven't produced it themselves, but they're facilitating the sale, how do they display that so that it is separated?
So if you have a website for online sale for different types of food, for example, you have commercial products, you have cottage food products, you have farm direct if online for retail sale, then you need to have them have them listed on separate web page. So for example, this page is for commercial product, and this web page is for cottage food product. So you can list all cottage food products under a separate web page. And on that web page, you need to clearly state this product is homemade, not from an inspected establishment. So just have the web listing separately from different types of products. That can work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What other questions do we have? Carrie, it looks like you have one.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify and what she just shared about listing products separately. Most online marketplaces aren't going to do that. But we can identify it with a different attribute. Is that sufficient? Or
So how do you identify different attributes? You mean each listed product has the statement, this is a cottage food, or this is a...
yeah, so we could create an attribute that specifically says whatever you want it to cottage, I don't know what you'd use.
cottage food. So yeah,
Cottage qualified or not, homemade, or I don't know what you would want to
yeah, it
say, but
basically, if every product listed, if this is a cottage food, so let me go back to, how can
I guess we could just say cottage food, but I think most people aren't going to really know what that means, and then we could
Yeah, so basically this statement, the product is homemade, is not prepared in an inspected food establishment. That is the information we need to clearly deliver to the customers. So
we
if
could put that in the description of the product.
yes, so it has to be yeah, on the, so for example, if you do not have a separate cottage food web page, but so if everything is commingled, but that product is cottage food, then you have the statement on the top to identify this is a cottage food, not made in an inspected food facility. That
Okay.
also meet the requirement. So the information has to be clearly delivered to the customer.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, sounds good.
What other questions do we have? I know we have to have more than one.
Mm.
Really? Is anyone selling cottages? Caitlin, you have one.
Yeah, just in some previous conversations about the exemptions, there's been conversations about a domestic kitchen that's unlicensed versus a home domestic kitchen license and like what those different spaces can produce and sell into. And I was wondering if those are in fact different and how they play into the exemption.
So you mean domestic kitchen previously was licensed and now they are exempt?
I mean, I guess from my understanding, you can produce products from your kitchen, a domestic kitchen, without being licensed under some of these exemptions. And then some people also have gone through the step of licensing their home domestic kitchen. And I have never been 100% sure what those two different entities can produce and where they can sell. And if there's not a difference between those two things, that would also be good information. Maybe I'm just confused about that.
So yes, so the cottage food exemption allows certain type of product. So first you have to you only, hold on, let me close this one again. So first, you cannot make food out of this scope. So only this type of product, baked goods, confectionery items, coffee beans. So the items listed here are could be exempt. And then the label has to carry the labeling information for cottage food. So these requirement, you must meet these requirements for cottage food exemption. And then, but if you do not want to be limited, and also there's sales limitation that you cannot exceed $50,000. So if you meet all these requirements, then you can be covered on the cottage food exemption. However, if you would like to make other products out of this scope, then you would need a license with ODA, and then you can sell to any customers. So the limitation is no longer exist. And then the labeling, you don't need to put this statement on the label. So the scope is larger for licensed home kitchen. You can sell to more customers, and there's no labeling requirement for the statement showing on the screen. And also, you can make potentially hazardous foods. So if you make food requiring refrigeration for safety, that can be covered on under your licensed home kitchen.
Does that answer your question, Caitlin?
Yes. Yes, I think so. I mean, in my head is the word like a food processor, like food processing licensing. And so I'm just like, okay, there's domestic kitchen, then the licensed domestic kitchen, and then food processing licensing would be like a step above that. I'm just trying to visualize those in my head, what you would
Yeah.
recommend to someone.
Yeah, if you want to do more than what is exempt, you can sell, you can do more, you can make more products, you can sell to more customers, you can have more gross annual sale. And you don't need to put the labeling, say this is not from an inspected establishment. So yeah, so that's the difference. You can do more than the exempt food products.
I can add to that a little bit too. So anybody that is doing cottage foods or farm direct is limited to that exemption, but they could apply for a domestic kitchen license if they wanted one. It doesn't exclude them from applying. It just allows a carve out in the law to not require a license in those cases. So you could see that. And then there's two different types of domestic kitchen licenses that we issue based on the type of products that they want to make. And it's either a bakery or a processor. So if a cottage food operator did not want to write that statement that this is prepared in an uninspected kitchen, but still wanted to make that product, they could apply for a license with ODA, and we would help them do that.
Yeah, thank you,
Awesome.
Ashley. That's right. If you want to be licensed, we can still license you, even you fall under the cottage food exemption.
All right, we've got questions from Buck, and then we'll go to Chelsea, then Aaron.
Thanks, Sydney. I appreciate this presentation. So I'm Buck Jones. I'm with Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission. So when FSMA came around, Kriftik developed some recommendations for our member tribes for fishing, for fish processing actually. But we did a lot of outreach to our member tribes, and was really surprised that my tribe, Confederate Tribes of the Umatilla, already had a cottage kitchen, regulations set up on their reservation, and we're still trying to do some recommendations and things like this. So I'm actually on the FDA Food Safety Advisory team as well, but I would like to get some of maybe these your presentation, and so as we develop more of our own food safety laws and codes, to make sure that we're on the same level, if not to exceed some of these things that the state of Oregon has. And then I shared a picture that I got in Charleston, South Carolina. I was really surprised when I seen that on that label, and I just bought this like at a dock, some garlic cheese bread. So yeah, thank you for this presentation. Thanks, Sydney.
Thank you, Buck. So you are seeing the picture, butter half home bakery garlic cheese bread. So where did you get this product?
This was in Charleston, South Carolina. I
Oh,
was
okay.
yeah, I was at a fishing conference over there.
Oh, okay, nice. Thank you for sharing that.
You were going to be upset that the label wasn't regulation.
Yeah, yeah. Every state has their own cottage food law, and I believe the requirements might be a little different. Yeah, it's good to see other states cottage food labeling. Thank you, Buck.
Chelsea, thanks, Buck.
Hey, so my name's Chelsea. I work with Burrito Brigade. It's a food pantry in Eugene. Also organic farmer. And one of the things that we're working on right now is we're expanding our shared use kitchen, which is just a commercial kitchen at this point in time. And I think that I don't know if this is completely a cottage food question, but maybe you could help explain like what the progression might be for us. So here's an example. We work with some farms that are doing farm to institution sales. And then at times there will be, say, like, a option to sell like a bunch of like winter squash to a school. Yet the school, in order to make the sale, and because it's kind of I think nowadays they're taking different amounts, but originally when it was kind of getting going, it was like you needed to have enough for them to use. Like one of the things we were trying to explore is how our kitchen could help with processing a product to make it available for the schools to use. So you take the winter squash and you cut it up into little cubes so that it would be easy for the school to use. However, I'm not sure how that would fall for the farm as in processing it, like how they would have to, if they need to get licensed, if it's just also like kind of a one-off, because they're still young, how we could maneuver that or navigate it or encourage it.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, let me go back to that slide. So the farm direct marketing exemption requires every step to prepare the farm direct products be conducted in a facility located where the farm direct products were grown. So for your case, it is a commercial kitchen in Eugene. So it's not located on the farm. So the farm direct product cannot be, the production cannot be performed in a commercial kitchen. So in that case, a food processing license would be required for that production. So either the farmer carry the license, or you can carry the license. Whoever is responsible for the production would need a food processor license. And also, again, the cottage food must be conducted in the home kitchen where the residential home food is made. So it cannot be conducted in a commercial kitchen either. So for a commercial kitchen, then someone has to carry a license with ODA.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this presentation. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if we were to carry we would be like, if we were the third party that would carry the license, then the farmer would just essentially could come in and process,
That's correct. But are you responsible? Will you take the full responsibility for the product? So you are acting like a co-packer for different farmers. So if you carry the license and you are responsible for, you take the full responsibility for all the products and production, yes, you can have the license and serve as a co-packer. But if you just rent the kitchen to different farmers and the farmer comes in, bring the ingredients, make their food, and they are responsible for their own products and production, each farmer or each operator must carry their own license. So that's the difference.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chelsea, a good way to think about it is the product is different than the kitchen. What the kitchen can do, sort of dictates what kind of products you can make in it. But if you're making a product, then you have to find the right kitchen space and licensing for the product for the purpose. Does that make sense? You kind of want to think about them as two different things. 'Cause
Yeah,
they have different regulatory needs.
Yeah,
Right.
so the license goes with by the location, also by the person. If I'm an operator, I have kitchen A for make my product A, I have kitchen B for make my product B. So each kitchen I need to have a license at each kitchen. But for kitchen A, we have different operators coming in, use the same kitchen, but they are making their own products. And each operator at the same kitchen has to carry their own license. So that's the difference. You can see, unless you are co-packer, then you are responsible for all the products made at the kitchen. So then in that case, you only need one license, but you take the full responsibility for all the products being made at that location. Okay.
All right, Erin.
I have a more specific question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. We have a vendor at our farmers market that continues to want to sell tinctures made with alcohol and homemade vinegars, fruit-made vinegars. And we have told them over and over that's not allowed under cottage exemption or farm direct. But is there a way that it is allowed? And what
No,
is that?
it's not, yeah, tinctures are not covered by the cottage food or the farm direct exemption. So the operator must make the food in a licensed kitchen. So in that case, if you have told them several times, but they still not, does they are not willing to comply. So you can file a consumer complaint with ODA. Then our inspector will follow up with them to get them licensed. But you need to provide us with the contact information, email, phone number, address, so we will be able to follow up with the operator. And
Well, mostly I just want to figure out a way that they can do that product. So if they use a commercial kitchen, they can do it. What's
yes,
the, like,
if
they have
if
to have their product tested though, right? Do they need to send it up to like the Food Innovation Center?
it depends on what type of product they make. Are they making cannabis or just
No,
it's just
no, it's just
tincture?
tinctures, like herbal tinctures that they're
Oh,
making
okay.
it with alcohol. And then the same with the vinegars. They're making like their own fruit vinegars.
Oh, okay. That is not covered by Farm Direct. Farm Direct allows lacto-fermented product. So vinegar is acetic acid fermented. It's not lacto-fermented. So that requires a license. So they can get they can find a commercial kitchen to do the production and get a license at the commercial kitchen. Then their
But to get the license, they have to have their product tested, right?
Depends. So if it's just a vinegar and they have their own pH meter to do the product testing, that will be fine. It does not require a third-party laboratory testing. So our inspector,
Okay, cool.
yeah, our inspector will work with them to make sure their product is safe for commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it easier. And then my other question is about black garlic. So that's not technically fermented, right? They say it's fermented black garlic, but it's not a lacto fermentation process.
It's called aging.
Mhm.
It's not technically fermentation. There's some during the aging, there's temperature and humidity parameter controlling fact to meet. So in that case, of course, first they need a food processor's license and work with our food safety inspector to make sure their product is safe, is made safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for how to sell or help sell cottage food products?
I have one, Sydney. What's the standard, especially under the college and such, where if you're just kind of demoing and testing things before you go head deep into it, is there a license needed? And you're not selling it, you're just sampling it or demoing it at a particular place or venue. What's the requirement?
So, so if you are not commercially selling it just for product development, for sampling, or for demonstration, you do not need a license with ODA. So basically, you are not make food for sale. Then you don't need a license. So you can, if you want to know if your product is safe, you can consult with like OSU Extension or like the Food Innovation Center in Portland.
Mhm.
They do consultation and they help you to do the product development. So at that stage, you are not required to have a food safety license because you are just making food. You are developing product, experimenting and sampling, demonstrating, but not for commercial sale. Yeah,
Okay.
you only need the
Well-
license when you start commercial production.
Willie, though, a lot of the places that you might do sampling or reach your audience, I'm sure you've thought of this, but I'm just going to drop it in here to remind us all. They may have rules about how you produce or what kind of licensing you need to hold to sample at their events. A lot
Right.
of farmers markets are pretty strict about it.
Mhm. Yeah, if you go to farmers market, you have to follow their rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if
Right.
you were in a licensed retail store that wanted to let you demo, then it does need to be from an
Yeah.
approved source. So
Right.
you're
Right.
kind of in that window where you need to meet the regulations, like Sydney was saying, based on where you are.
Right. Well, no, I'm just in thought, thinking about the hundreds of thousands, if not family guinea pigs that you have access to, but wanting to make sure that, especially under the new definition of things, if something was included in that or not.
Cool. Great. Carrie, you have another one.
Yeah. I have a few producers who are making their own herbs and spices and seasoning mixes out of things that they're growing, like garlic and peppers. And where does those fall into the realm?
So in that case, so they grow the ingredients, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that could fall under the farm direct marketing exemption. So like fruits, vegetables, edible flowers, herbs, they could be fresh, cured, or dried as part of the post-harvesting handling, or not part of the routine post-harvest handling. So they can do fresh or dried fruits, vegetable, and herbs. That falls under farm direct exemption, but that only allowed for retail sale.
So that
They-
means that Carrie couldn't sell it through her food hub then. Is that correct?
Correct. It cannot, Food Hub, so Food Hub will serve as a retail store, right? So that is wholesale. So you cannot sell to Food Hub and Food Hub resale. So, but you can, if Food Hub host an event, then you can sell your product at the event.
So as a food hub, I cannot resell their seasonings unless they are preparing it in
The commercial kitchen, a license.
a
Yeah.
licensed food processing kitchen. So if they bring it to our kitchen, which is licensed for food processing, then we could sell it. But they still need their own food processing license and we need
Correct.
ours.
Yes, so unless you are doing co-pack, you do co-pack for them, which means you take the full responsibility. So they bring you the ingredients and they bring their recipe and you process, you're responsible for the whole production.
Okay, so if I take their garlic and we buy it and then we dry it and grind it up, then we can resell it?
You buy, okay, yeah, so you use their raw ingredients and you process and you resell. Yes, that you can do it. You have a license, correct? You already have a license.
Yeah, and food processing.
Oh,
like-
yeah. Yeah, then you use their raw garlic to produce your own products. Yes, you can do that.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions? That was a good one, Carrie.
Hey, I've got a question. It's Jasmine.
Go for it, Jasmine.
So I'm a food hub and a physical retail location, but we consign most of our products. We do wholesale, or we buy products and resell a small percentage, but most of our products are on consignment. And we also own and operate a community garden where we are growing vegetables and fruit and selling a percentage of them in our food hub. And that classifies us as a primary producer. I think that's the right term. And so we're able to accept like farm direct nutrition checks and qualify for the Double Up Food Bucks farm stand program. So they're kind of viewing us as a farm stand. So I have been able to consign with ODA permission the farm direct marketing value added producer products and the bakery
So, okay.
baking dough.
So you're talking about two exemptions. One is the farm direct, the other is the cottage food.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
is that
bakery is on the farm. Sorry, bakery is on cottage food. So first, you yourself is a farm direct marketer, right? Because you have a garden.
a farm direct marketer? Yep.
Yeah, yourself. Yeah, okay. So that in that case, yes, you can consign other farmers' product.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring that up to the group as like
Sure.
a
Yeah,
cool loophole that we've been able to
yeah,
use
because
and-
consignment sales are allowed, but you yourself must be a farm direct marketer first. You cannot
Yeah.
be a retail store and then you consign. That's not allowed. And for the bakery goods, that's the cottage food exemption. And the baked goods is made in a home kitchen. Is that correct? Not in the commercial kitchen.
Yeah, we oh sorry. I'm still here. So yeah, we have home bakers that are selling, but we give them their own shelf.
Oh, okay. So it's cottage food, separately displayed in your,
Yes.
and you have the signage to say the product is.
Yeah, cottage food and not made in a licensed food processing
Oh,
establishment.
okay, great. Yeah, you are meeting the requirement. Let me go there. Yeah, so and you have agreement with the cottage food operator. That
Mhm.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. So you're doing both farm direct and also cottage food sale in your retail store.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we have some honey talk happening in the chat, which is sort of like going back a year in time when Aaron Maidlow was all honey all the time.
I was just typing a response, so I'll just sum up my question. Similar to Carrie's question earlier about selling dried herbs and spice blends from other producers who are producing under cottage food laws or farm direct laws. We're a food hub, we have a small food hub, and we are selling honey from another producer. And so when you were going over that answer to Caitlin's question, it kind of made me perk up about, would that same rule apply to us? Are we not able to sell honey from the other producers because of their farm direct exemption? Or would we, if we have the license as a retailer or a food warehouse license, would we be able to still sell their product?
So
If that makes
for the
sense.
honey product, is that under the cottage food exemption?
Yes, yeah, they have it labeled with the license language.
Okay, so if it's under cottage food exemption, yes, they can sell the honey at a retail store, which is your food hub carrying a retail establishment. But if they are under farm direct, then the honey cannot be cannot be used for wholesale. So you can sell honey product on the cottage food exemption, but you cannot sell honey under the farm direct exemption because farm direct exemption does not allow wholesale.
So we would be allowed to sell their honey
under the cottage food exemption.
Okay, and
There's
they,
a third honey exemption. So you really want to know where the honey is coming from and how they're labeling it, because there's a hive exemption as well that is completely unlicensed.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So, okay, so the honey exemptions, if the beekeeper has 20 hives or less, they are exempt. So they can do retail sale and wholesale. So there are 3 scenarios now. So first is honey exemption. So if they have 20 hives or less, you can resell their honey product. But if they above 20 hives and on the farm direct, they cannot do wholesale, but only retail sale. But if they on the cottage food, then they can do cottage food. You can sell cottage food honey in your store.
Okay.
Yeah, so it depends
Okay.
on type of exemption it
See, I
falls
guess
under.
I wasn't clear that it was under both cottage food and farm direct. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they have 20 hives or less, but we just sell it online as part of our food hub. And it's just labeled with the cottage food laws, but we sell it as their brand and they sell it to us, it's sold retail, but it's sold to us for a lower price, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that would be
Sale
considered
price.
consignment
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
whole-
so if they have 20 hives or less, then they can do retail sale and wholesale. And
Okay.
they don't need to meet the cottage food labeling.
Okay.
Yeah. And for farm direct, yeah. For farm direct, the honey cannot have any additives. But for cottage food, you can add flavors or additives, but the ingredients must be from a commercial source. So there's some difference between the different exemptions also.
Okay, so on that, that's what I was going to ask about, and that's what the honey discussion was for like a year. Is so if someone's making infused honey, they can do it, but they have to commercially purchase the things that they're infusing into the honey. So say if they're
Yes,
infusing it with lavender, they have to buy that from a commercial producer.
yes, you are correct. So if they infuse lavender, the lavender must be purchased from a commercial source.
Okay, gotcha. So it's more about how they are labeling their product and if they're
Yes.
selling it directly
Mhm.
to customers from their farm or their operation and how they're licensed. If they're selling it with under those rules, it could be farm direct, but if they're selling it to us with the right type of labeling,
Yes.
then we
Yeah.
can sell it under their cottage food laws.
Yeah, then they have to make sure the ingredients are from a commercial source and the label meets the cottage food labeling requirement.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
they can post. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And thank
My
you for your
pleasure.
presentation. It's very informative.
Thank you.
Honey still makes my head spin.
Yeah, that's a different scenario. Like we have to think about what is the source of the honey? What exemption the honey falls under?
Well, we could never get that answer about like, that was the question I was asking for, I mean, months. Is like,
Decades,
how do you sell
decades.
infused? Yeah. And no one ever said specifically the additives have to be commercially sourced. It was always this gray area where everyone was like, I don't know, I'll get back to you on it. And no one ever knew. So that's super helpful. Like, it's like, we finally answered the honey question, Sydney.
Unbelievable.
And you can send me those questions if some new scenarios come up, and then we have to think about it and give you the answer. Sometimes I don't have the answer right away for you. I have to think about, oh, let me think which regulation I should use for this product. Yeah, just send me those questions if you have any in the future.
Be careful what you wish for.
Take it back.
Does anybody have questions about the record keeping requirements? And do the record keeping requirements, if a food hub is selling So the record keeping requirement is solely on the producer. Is that correct?
Correct. So the record requirements is for the cottage food operator. They have the responsibility to keep the sales records.
But the food hub does
so
not. So if the food hub
Food Hub
sells
does-
it, it's not their issue.
No, so for Food Hub, that's I think the third bullet here. So the operator must record the firm address and information for the firm's point of contact, the location, the date, the price, the quantity. So that's the operator's responsibility, not the retail store's responsibility.
Okay, great. Other questions? I feel like I want to ask every ODA question I've ever had and not limit myself to the scope of this conversation, which I will do you the favor of doing.
I know
Caitlin,
I have
do you
so
see
many
any
questions,
questions?
but
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Erin.
it's okay. I just was saying I have so many questions, but the hard thing is like there's constantly so many questions that I don't even know where to start here. It's so hard to like our two local inspectors will give you two completely separate answers. So it's really hard to navigate all of this. Like I'm the board president of a farmer's market and we're doing an acquisition. So like I'm dealing with 90 vendors at our farmer's market that all have questions all the time. And we constantly have to walk around and like, you can't sell that or you can sell that or whatever. And then the commercial kitchen on top of that, like you can sell it if you use the kitchen, but then there's like, well, I can sell it if I don't use the kitchen too at this market, but just not at your food hub or whatever. So it's very confusing.
Yeah, sometimes it is confusing regarding it. Yeah, that's true. And we have to evaluate case by case. So yeah, but basically for the exemptions, we have this basic information here. So hopefully those handouts we developed would be helpful for operators to understand the requirements to be exempt on the cottage food or on the farm direct. But I understand sometimes there are specific questions. So for this case, you can just email me those questions and I will give you an answer. If I don't have the answer, I will find the answer for you. You can email to foodsafety@oda.oregon.gov. So this email is monitored by our office staff and also all the managers. So send the emails to this address and then you will be answered from the office instead of from the inspector. And
Awesome.
this is the office number. Yeah, please use this email address for all the questions you have.
Caitlin, do you see, or are there any questions that you've spent so much time in the weeds of small scale CPG? Are there any questions that you feel like you used to see that you're not seeing get answered here?
I have like a lot of silly little questions that I won't ask, but I think the main thing that I ran into in talking with farmers that were trying to process things and sell them is the licensing, the spot where you need to go get the domestic kitchen license or the food processing license, understanding how much time and money that is for different products that they're making, and that like some things are kind of easy and some things like the vinegar conversation, like that kind of helping people navigate and understanding that was a real big challenge when I was in that role, because sometimes it could be like thousands of dollars and like 10 months for them to get the thing. So that's not really a question, but just a comment I'm having of like, if they can do the easy, if they can fall under the exemption and you can guide them to that, they could maybe sell their product at a cheaper price point and not have to go through all of this. And it might not be worth it for them to get license for like one vinegar product is just my commentary,
Yeah.
but open to other thoughts.
Yeah, so for the again, back to the vinegar product does not fall under any exemption. So basically, if they tell you they want to make vinegar product, which means they would need a license with ODA. So in this case, I would suggest you just go to this how to contact your local ODA inspector website and find the inspector and get the operator connected with our inspector to start the licensing consultation or licensing application process. So vinegar does not fall under any exemption.
I think that's a helpful comment, Caitlin. For those of you who are in a navigator role like Caitlin used to be, I know Erin Mabel, you do that. There's a couple of others, Carrie, you probably do a fair amount of that. Having some basic understanding of where folks will get tripped up on costs and time if they're trying to develop a product, if somebody comes to you early in their game and you can help them identify a way to move forward more quickly, that's probably very useful. So thank you, Caitlin, for bringing that up. Erin, you've got another question.
Yeah, it's kind of a more specific one again, but we have like the seafood to schools thing comes up a lot, and we have seafood producers who have raw seafood that schools can't use. And so we've offered in the kitchen to like take their raw seafood and cook it, like bake it or whatever, not smoke, and then package it and sell it back to schools. So do we need to get a processor's license for each individual species of fish?
Oh, no.
Or, okay.
No, you don't need to get a license for each species. But you would need a food processor license for the seafood production. So, and also if you sell to a school, that is a wholesale production, I believe, right?
Mhm.
So in
Yeah.
that case, for seafood wholesale production, it also requires to compliance with seafood HACCP, which means
Oh, okay.
hazard analysis and the critical control point. So basically you need to analyze the product and process to identify the seafood related hazards and apply controls to make sure you make safe seafood. So there's additional seafood hazard requirement. So for that, a seafood inspector must be connected and to work with you to make sure you comply with seafood hazard. Of
Okay.
course, a processor license is needed.
And then also we get a lot of like producers bring us a ton of, you know, at the end of this, they have like excess tomatoes that they don't know what to do with. So they'll bring us like cases of tomatoes for us to use. And we would love to like make tomato sauce to sell back to schools. So our option for that is either use an approved recipe or have our recipe tested. Like the problem with having the recipe tested is we never have time when we have tomatoes sitting here. So
So
what are the
are you-
options for doing that?
Are you talking about farm direct exemption for this?
No, we're a commercial kitchen. I have a
So
food
you
hub
would-
commercial
okay.
kitchen,
Yeah.
but we just manage the kitchen. Like the kitchen itself is not, you know, we don't have a processing license or whatever as a commercial kitchen on our own. Because we're not making products in here usually, but we do get stuff like that where we're like, well, we should process these and sell them back to schools in a form they can use.
Yeah, so there are some recipes available. Let me see where is
Okay.
the link I can. Let me go to.
So would the farmers be coming in to use your kitchen and then making those like that tomato sauce under Farm Direct to then turn around and
Nope.
sell to the school?
No,
Nope, they give the tomatoes to us.
Okay.
And so like they donate cases of tomatoes to us sometimes. And so we want them to get used instead of just like, there's only so many cases of tomatoes you can give out whole. So we're like, well, we could process them into tomato sauce. Because the school can't do that on their own. But how do we safely, legally do that?
So if you make, if you're looking for recipes, so this handout is the Farm Direct Marketing Producer Processed Products. So here we have some reference documents for you to use. We have the USDA complete guide for home canning, we have the Pacific Northwest Extension publications by OSU, WSU, and University of Idaho. And these you could find some recipes to follow. And another resource is that you can find a process authority to help you develop the product. So this is on our website. So
That's
Well, we have the
shelf-stable
recipes.
products too. Like you have the option of doing it not shelf stable if the school can accept that, which gives you a lot more wiggle room if you could freeze it and then
Yeah,
sell
that's
it to
what
the
we're looking
school.
at.
oh,
And like we have the recipes, we're just wondering what kind of licensing we need to sell it back to schools.
so if you do not make shelf-stable product, and you can use the temperature control as a barrier. So if you make refrigerated tomato sauce, you don't need to have the product tested or approved by a process authority. So refrigeration is your control. Of course, you need to apply sanitation program during your process. Are you cooking the tomato or it just chopped and mixed with
Yeah.
ice?
Yeah, we usually cook it down to get the liquid out, make
Oh, okay.
tomato sauce for like pizza or pasta or whatever,
I
but
see.
we can
So
do
you
it
have-
without flavor, like just plain tomatoes, or add the flavor, but usually it's without any flavoring, we're just chopping the tomatoes, cooking it down,
Mhm.
and that's it.
And then bottled and refrigerated, correct?
Yeah, or put in plastic bags and frozen.
Plastic. Okay, then you have two controls. One is the cooking, one is the freezing. So you have two controls already. For that, you don't need to follow recipes. You can just develop your own recipe, and your recipe already has controls in the process. For that, you can work with the food safety inspector. The inspector will review your process and to make sure your product is safe.
And the license you would be applying for is a food processing license. I think that was part of the question.
Yes.
All right, do we have any other questions? There's some follow-ups to all of that. We're gonna reach out to some processing folks to talk to this group about processing and how the licensing works for that, and what that looks like in their kitchens, as well as reaching out, Aaron, to Kristen Penner and Carrie about fish HACCP examples.
Yeah.
But
So
fish is like honey, it's hard.
seafood yeah. But anyway, if you apply for a food license, either most likely will be food processor license, then you will work with our food safety inspector. Then we will assist you go through the whole licensing process and make sure to review and evaluate your product and process to make sure you make a safe product for public sale.
Jinwin, I've got a follow-up question for you. There was a question in the chat that they would like to see a sample HACCP plan for fish. Do you know if we have any of those on our website?
I do not think we have seafood HACCP model on website, but normally the seafood inspector has those models. So let me see if I use myself as example. This is my seafood HACCP folder. So let me see if I would like to.
I think Oregon State University might have
Yeah.
some on their website as well.
Yeah, so if you start to work with a seafood inspector, the inspector will show you some model HACCP plan. And then, but basically you will need a training. You need to receive a seafood HACCP training before you can do the wholesale seafood production.
For those of you interested in seafood, we're going to engage Kristen Penner around some of that. She has a role with Oregon Coast Visitors Association and the Ocean Cluster Initiative that is all about selling and processing more local seafood. So she should be able to help at least facilitate a conversation about these particular struggles and what she's learned what we
That's
know, what we already know out there.
Oh, great. Yes. Yeah, because seafood is a high-risk product. It requires hazard analysis and critical controls. So that seafood is not an exempt product. So it will be licensed and inspected, and you have your resource of information. That's great.
There's another question in the chat, Jinwen. Does ODA recommend a certain HACCP training for seafood?
Yes, we have that we have on our website. I can go to so if you
There's usually like a couple classes a year that are within the state.
yes, the OSU Seafood Lab in Astoria, they host seafood HACCP training annually. So sorry, seafood HACCP. We have a seafood HACCP handout. Where did it go? Let me see.
I can put the link to the Seafood Oregon State HACCP webpage. There's probably a couple links in there when you guys follow up with Kristen. It might be helpful.
Yes, and we have a, where did it go? We should have it. Okay. So on this web page, food processing and warehouse licensing, and at the bottom, we have the fish and fishery products step-by-step guide. This handout provides you the guidance information for seafood HACCP product. And they have the links to the regulations, and I believe they have the they have all the HACCP resources on this page. Let me give you the link to the chat. Let me put the link here. So I put the link to the seafood HACCP handout in the chat, so you can just use that as your resource if you do seafood wholesale production.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're at like about 10-ish minutes to the end of our time. Do we have any last minute questions that we want to get in? How much gratitude do we have for all of this? I feel like worth the price of admission just getting the honey answer today.
You didn't expect honey is the most complicated question.
We spent all of last spring talking about honey and not getting to the bottom of the issue. I think we sort of just moved on. I know I moved on. Aaron probably didn't, but it was a really hard conversation. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for getting into the weeds with us. Regulation is really, it's hard to understand, and it's really hard to understand in the field. It's easy to read, and then you try to apply it to your situation, and it becomes very much more challenging. So we really appreciate it. Kirsten, it looks like we have one last question.
Sorry. Hi. I think maybe it could be a follow-up, but we're launching a wholesale food hub in Benton County, and we believe we know about the kind of licensing. We're not starting with a warehouse. We're starting with a refrigerated truck and a route. We're only moving the food box on, box off that is already purchased. It'll stay on the refrigerated truck for the night and then be delivered the next day. So I don't believe we don't fit into the warehouse licensing. And we were doing the food processing licensing kind of and food handling to cover ourselves. But we're wondering if there's any record keeping that we're not aware of.
So you already have a retail license for the food hub, and then you have refrigerated truck for the delivery service. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, so you already have a license with ODA, that's great. And the truck to the delivery service does not require a license. But since you are delivering refrigerated products, so you would need to monitor the temperature of the delivery truck. Do you have a monitoring system to make sure the product maintained at proper temperature during delivery?
Not yet. We are getting the truck next week, so.
Oh, okay. Just make
Yes.
sure.
Can I clarify, Kirsten, when you're
Please.
talking about refrigerated product, you're not talking about refrigerated processed product. You're refrigerating because you're moving fresh produce.
Correct.
Oh, you mean fresh produce?
Yes, sorry, only fresh vegetables and fruit that we will be moving.
Oh, okay. Then you don't need to, because for that purpose, it's more for quality retention. So it's not for safety. The temperature monitoring is not required if just for fresh produce. I
Okay, at what point does it become required?
Yeah, I thought you were talking about refrigerated, time temperature controlled safe product that requires temperature refrigeration as a control. So if fresh produce, it does not require. But I understand you use refrigerated truck for quality purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good questions, y'all. Thank you. Thank you, Jiming and Angelina. Really, really appreciate your time.
It's our pleasure to be here today. And like I said, if you have more questions and you have my phone number, you can call me or you can send questions to my email or use the food safety email as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Super helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
See y'all.
See you. Have a great day.